Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul back again at Radio Free Hammer Hall. With me today, I've got, that way, Dan Caravan, and we are looking at Cities of Sigmar in Age of Sigmar 4th edition with all of the crazy new rules and just a completely new book for them now. So with all of these, I'm just excited to look at the new rules. I don't know, despite having this army, I don't know if I'm actually going to be keeping it. After reading this, I'm not sure it's going to play the way I want to. So how is your feeling on it? Just kind of at first blush.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time looking over this book, and it definitely does not play the way that old cities did. It's definitely, it still feels like it's kind of segregated. If you're playing with humans, you kind of mostly want to play with humans. If you're playing with dwarves, you're not really benefiting from anything in the other sections. Yeah. And what you really want to do, I feel, is have a mixed arms, but there's also a lot of interesting skew list where you just go very heavy in one section. You're missing out on all the tricks of your orders that you used to have. And it's great that it's a lot simpler to play. And you're not going to have a lot of confusion that other people might have had when playing cities or playing against cities before. Yeah. But you also lost a lot of what made them feel cool and unique.
Yep. That I think the way that orders work now is, from a gameplay perspective, I think it's better. Like, you don't have to make that decision at the top of battle round for what they're going to do. But your options are more limited, and I think they're generally a little bit less powerful, at least on a couple of them.
Yeah. Some of them are great. Strike them down gives you extra attacks, and if you're an elf, you also get +1 to hit.
Yeah.
But then you're taking elves, and your heroes can only issue one order each turn, which means that now you're taking more heroes, which might mean you're taking more drops in your army.
Yeah.
And the less drops you have, hopefully the better. So I think the sweet spot is around 3. And ideally, if you can fit into a 2-drop, that's great.
Yeah, I feel like this is an army that wants to run a whole bunch of heroes, which really is going to rub up against the army composition rules in a bad way. It's gonna force you to be more drops than you want to be, and that's bad competitively anyway. Personally, I don't care for the way that I typically play. I usually build my lists around planning that I'm probably not having the option in the first battle round.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. In previous editions, unless I was playing my KO, I did not care how many drops I was. Because at the end of the day, even if you make your list 1 drop, you run up against someone else who's a 1 drop, and then all the optimization you did, it comes down to a roll-off.
Yeah.
So the fact that you might get that first turn, or you might lose that first turn, isn't necessarily a problem if you can design your list to play either first or second. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a key thing going into 4th.
Yep. So that said, I think there really is a lot of cool stuff in this army book, and I don't mean to sound like negative on it off the top, but I just thought I would share like my general feeling. Like, I have, like, basically I didn't buy any of the new cities stuff when it launched, so I was kind of doing counts as with all of the old stuff, and I'm like, it just doesn't. A lot of it just doesn't feel like it's going to work the way I want it to. So, I like, for the stuff that I like in this army that I would want to play in this army, I can pretty much just play a similar list like in Slaves to Darkness and be pretty happy with it. And you'd have to get the range support like from spells instead of shooting, but it's still there.
Yeah. When I was playing cities, I played it with some of the units that got squatted. Like I had a lot of pistoliers, and that's one of the things that I really rocked with, as well as phoenixes. I have like 4 phoenixes, which now don't exist in 3rd edition, so I kind of put them on the back burner. But I did come up with a list that I think is really fun and showcases a lot of what cities can do. And hopefully, as we go through this, I can gloat about, or not gloat, but like praise some of the cool design choices that I think we can find in lists.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we get started into all of the war scrolls and battle traits and all that stuff, just wanted to give a quick shout out to channel sponsor Dice Trade Depot. You can find a link to their store in the description, along with 15% off offer code. So they make fantastic custom dice trays. Can put any sort of like design on them that you want. Your club, your favorite faction, just something cool, ironic, silly. It's awesome. They're the only dice trays that I use or want to use. I have. I'm working on having one for every one of my armies, along with dice for all of my armies. So I will be getting more of those soon, I'm sure.
Cool.
All right, let's jump in. Our battle traits is just our orders, right? And there's a lot of text on each of these that what it really comes down to is that each of your heroes can use one of these 4 orders each turn. And that's it. Like, you can use more orders if you have more heroes. And in the previous book, it was like once per battle round for all of these things. And now some of these are, well, 3 out of 4 of these are, you get them again on your opponent's turn too. So you get to double up on the usage here. You have less flexibility than you used to since there's only 4 of these, but they're also like all really useful and good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what we have here is really cool. And the fact that it's only 4 orders means, and the fact that only 3 of them play in your opponent's turn means that you don't actually have to overload too much on heroes, because each of those heroes is only going to be doing one thing.
Yeah. All right. So just quickly going through them. Advance in formation. You pick a... hold on. You pick one of your Cities of Sigmar units. You can pick a second one if the first target is human. And each target can move an additional 3 inches in that movement phase. And of course, can't move into combat. Very useful. Like, extra movement is always good. And it just has to be wholly within 12 inches. It doesn't have to be in combat or not in combat. Oh, wait. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Well, you can't be in combat and you can't move into combat, which means you don't get any of the Iron Jaw tricks with this.
Yeah. All right. Next is strike them down. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic if the target charged this turn. And then you get +1 to hits if the target was an elf. Then suppressing fire. Each time the target uses a shoot ability this phase, if all of its attacks targeted the same enemy unit, which it always is going to, after that ability has been resolved, roll a die. If the result is equal to or less than the number of models in the enemy unit that were slain by the shooting attacks this phase, that enemy unit has strikes last for the rest of the turn.
I actually love this ability.
Yeah.
The best part about it is you don't have to use it after the first unit shoots. So I can fire a cannon into a unit, kill 2 guys, and then fire Fusiliers into them, and then the damage from the cannon will count for the suppressing fire.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't have to.
You can double up, triple up, and hopefully kill 6 guys and guarantee the strike last.
Yeah, it's funky wording. that strike last thing is that it triggers at the end of the phase, and it's for all shooting attacks that hit that unit, not just the one that you're targeting with suppressing fire. All right, and then hold the line. This one gives a unit strike last, and it gives them a 5-up ward. So they're classic sort of like shield wall sort of formation. And if it's a dwarf, they also get enemies subtract 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks against them for the rest of the turn. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's the fact that you now have to, like, whenever you look at the war scrolls of this army, picture it also having a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking about, oh, this unit has 3 wounds and a 3-up save, well, now it's 3 wounds and a 5-up ward. And suddenly they're a lot more tanky, and there's multiple ways to get a 5-up ward in this army.
Mm-hmm.
So your dinky little humans are a lot more tanky than you'd think.
Yeah. All right, our battle formation, Dawnbringer Crusade, add 2 inches to the move characteristic of your Cities of Sigmar units in the first battle round. Movement, generally good, but I'm like just doing it 2 inches just in the first battle round. I don't know, feels like that could have been more.
I agree. The first battle round, I don't like investing in abilities that go away immediately. It's great when you combine it with the fact that you also order and have them move an additional 3.
Yeah.
So now you can add 5 inches to if you're human, if you include humans, 2 separate units move. That can be great for cavalry who now move 15 instead of 10. But
yeah, a lot of the buffs in this army, I find that, like, if you put them in a silo on their own, they're not always that impressive. But when you put everything together, like the other buffs that you can easily stack on a unit and have the synergy between them, it's like all of a sudden that unit's pretty powerful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Ironweld Guild. You add 3 inches to the range characteristic of your ranged weapons, which is pretty awesome. This edition in general has had all of the ranges cut back pretty considerably on a lot of the units, including in this army. So getting that extra 3 inches, as in many other ways in life, an extra 3 inches does a lot.
And it matters. A lot of the good shooting units in this list have a range of 18 or less.
Yeah.
And when you're deploying 18 inches away, that means if you have first turn, you're not shooting.
Yeah.
And even, like, realistically, even with the extra 3 inches, if you have a smart opponent, you still might not be shooting, but it helps space out your opponent to get farther away from you. And the positioning of that, putting your opponent back an extra 3 inches might be better than putting you forward 2.
Yeah. All right. Fortress City. So your units that have fortified positions start the first battle round in a fortified position. So you don't have to establish one in the first battle round. You just get this immediately and get all of the bonuses associated with it. And in the first battle round, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target friendly Cities of Sigmar units while they're wholly within friendly territory.
I like it.
Yeah.
The problem is it's so mission dependent.
Yeah.
And it's so, what is my opponent playing? Is my opponent going to be able to cross that 18-inch threshold, get past my screens, and reliably get into combat with me?
Yeah.
And they're very much armies that can easily do that. And if you're up against them, you absolutely want to set up your fortified positions and be at -1 to wound. But this is just a ability that goes away after the first battle round.
Yep. But an interesting thing, if you stack this with the order that gives you the ward and do it on a dwarf unit,
Oh
They're
yeah,
going to be -1 to hit them, -1 to wound them, and then a 5-up ward on top of their saves, which the dwarf saves are already good.
yeah.
So it's like thinking about the synergy and putting all of the buffs together, I think is kind of essential.
Absolutely. This is something that dwarves definitely benefit from.
Yeah.
But once again, this is only in the first battle round. And if your opponent's smart, they just wait you out.
Yeah.
So it remains to be seen how functional that ability is going to be.
Yep. And our last one, Collegiate Arcane, you just get +1 to cast on all of your wizards.
I think this one's great.
Yeah.
Because when we get to it, you'll see that the battle mages also get +1 to cast.
Yup. They sure do.
So now you can be like, oh, that Kron Spine that casts on an 8, casts on a 6 now. That's a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
And if I can unleash spell and drop a Kron Spine on my opponent's turn, that's fun.
Woo. Yeah. All right, our heroic traits. Master of Ballistics, when you give the all-out attack command to a shooting unit, or in the shooting phase, you also add 1 to wound for it. Then Grizzled Veteran, unmodified wound rolls for any attacks that hit this unit of 1 to 3 fail, and the attack sequence ends, so you can only hit them on a 4-up to wound. Which definitely can be useful.
Yeah. And Fiery Temper.
Yeah, Fiery Temper. If this unit charged this turn, you can re-roll charges for friendly Cities of Sigmar units while they are wholly within 18 inches of this unit, which is like, if it's in the middle, that's most of the battlefield.
Great. I have a hard time picking between these. The one that I love the guns in cities, and that's what I tend to favor. But I think Master of Ballistics is kind of a trap, just because I don't think you're going to have the command points to spare for an all-out attack.
Yeah, there's so many other things that you want to do, and other ways to get +1 to hit on your shooting, and possibly +1 to wound. I'm not remembering off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but I think Fiery Temper in so many armies is going to be the way.
Yeah. I also think Grizzled Veteran isn't that bad just because of how monsters are satted now. Because monsters are companions, almost all monsters are going to be 4s and 4s.
Yeah.
And if you put that on a tanky hero, they will be able to survive your opponent's big damage dealers. Like a steam tank with a 2-up save and a 5-up ward will shrug off something when you give them -2 to wound.
Yeah. All right, our artifacts of power, Sacred Tome. It makes the unit a priest, or alternatively, if it's already a priest, it adds 1 to chanting rolls. If it's also a wizard, it can't use a prayer and a spell in the same turn.
I love this. I think this is great. It gives.
I would take this a lot because your prayers are really good, and you're restricted a little bit on your other priests.
Yeah, I would always probably take the Sacred Tome. The others are great, don't get me wrong, but having access to the prayers that you get access to, and also just the ability to bounce between, like, this priest is praying this turn to store up for next turn while I'm trying to get the effects on this priest this turn, means you're more reliably getting a prayer off every turn.
Yeah. Glimmering, each phase, you can re-roll 1 hit, 1 wound, or 1 save roll for the unit. I do not like this.
Yeah, it's cool. If we had a way to get more artifacts onto people, then I think it'd be great. I think this is wonderful on Steam Tank. If you're on a Steam Tank commander, this is great. This is what you want.
Yeah, you re-roll that cannon.
Yeah, you can re-roll your cannon. You can re-roll your 2-up armor save. This is what you want on the Steam Tank. I don't know there's much other things that really benefit from this.
Yeah. And then Brazier of Holy Flame. You pick a non-Cities of Sigmar, non-hero Cities of Sigmar unit that is infantry. not in combat, and wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and you can return up to D3 slain models to that unit.
I think this has a purpose.
Yeah.
Because but like what it's good for is weird. Like I think that because it's just D3 slain. Now I don't have their war scroll in front of me, but what I immediately think of is the command corps.
Yeah.
I think they're non-hero, and I think they're infantry.
Yeah.
And we can double check that later. And each of those models are 3 wounds with a 5-up save.
Yep.
So bringing 2 to 3 of those back is useful, but then again, is the command corps useful? Is getting that necessarily worth losing a priest or losing that cool steam tank buff?
Yeah.
And everything else, your infantry isn't necessarily wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think it has a place in dwarves. I think it has a place in elves, and I think it can really benefit the command corps if I remember that it actually triggers for that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think if your gunners are engaged and they're losing models, it's not going to be much of a help because that unit's functionally dead if they ever get touched.
Yeah.
I think it could be tricky, but it does have its uses. I think it's better. I would say if you're building a dwarf build, I think it's better there.
Yep. All right. Spell lore. Elemental lightning casts on a 7, and it's an 18-inch magic missile that does D3. And then you roll a die for each other enemy unit within the target's combat range, so within 3 inches of it. On a 4-up, you inflict D3 mortal damage on that unit.
I think it's great.
Yes, and this is the unlimited spell in this lore. If you're bringing multiple wizards, you can just like machine gun your opponent.
And if you're bringing multiple wizards, you're going to be in that sub faction where you get +1 to cast. So now it's going off on a 5.
Yep.
So yeah, this you can if you want to go and have fun with a 15 drop list and play a bunch of battle mages, and your entire game plan is just doing this spell. I think that's hilarious. I don't think you'll win, but I think you'll have fun.
Yeah, I think I have like 10 battle mages for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So I can do that.
Absolutely. It will be half your army. I mean, realistically, it's not that far off for what the damage of a regular shooting unit does.
Yep.
So it might not be that bad of an idea.
Yeah. All right. Speed of the twin-tailed comet once again goes off on a 7. You pick a friendly Cities of Sigmar unit within 12 inches, or wholly within 12 inches, rather. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the number of dice rolled when making charge rolls to a maximum of 3. So it gives you 3d6 charge. Very good.
That is great, especially with how countercharge is a thing.
Yeah. So
I can pick a unit of knights, of even executioners, and then just run them up, and they, oh, surprise, here's a 10-inch charge on my opponent's turn.
Yeah.
And get them where they don't expect it. This can catch a lot of people off guard.
Yep. And it's until the start of your next turn. So you can cast it on a unit and kind of set it and forget it, let it roll over into your opponent's turn, and then have that unit hit from downtown unexpectedly.
Yeah. The positioning for this would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But if you can 3d6 charge a unit of hammers, power through and then countercharge on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
And those dwarves are suddenly moving real fast.
Yeah, they are. All right, Cinder Cloud. You pick a visible enemy unit within 18 inches to be the target. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic of the target's melee weapons. That could be very powerful.
That's devastating.
Yeah.
And it's probably in the core rules, but I'm assuming your attack characters can't be reduced to below 1.
Yeah, I assume so.
I'd hope so. But a lot of units in the game have 2 attacks as their base stat. So just by functionally cutting their damage in half is huge.
Yep.
And I got to double check the exact wording on companions, but I'd imagine this would also cut the companion attacks as well. Yeah. Because I believe it's only friendly buffs that don't apply.
Yep.
So,
all right. Yeah. Prayer lore, Wrath and Ruin, chance on a 4. You roll 6 dice. It has an 18-inch range. If the chanting roll was an 8+, you roll 9 dice instead. For each 5+, you inflict a mortal damage on the target. If 3 or more damage points were allocated to the target as a result of these die rolls, ignore positive modifiers to save rolls for the target until the start of your next turn.
That's
woof.
That's
nice.
Yeah.
And that 8+ to get the boosted version is very attainable.
Yeah, no, it is. That's realistically, by the time you're in range to do that, you might just have that saved up.
Yeah. Yeah. And 18 inches is still a pretty healthy range.
It is, but like between counter praying to back something up, and then there's a good chance that you'll be able to smack it in.
Yep. All right. Unfaltering aim, pray on a 4. Add 1 to hit rolls for the target's shooting attacks for the rest of the turn. In addition, if the roll was 10 or more, add 1 to wound rolls for the target's shooting attacks as well.
Yeah. So there's your way to get the additional wounds in.
Yeah. Or do this and that and just have outrageous shooting. Yeah. Then Oath and Steel. This one only goes off on a 5, which is going to be a challenge a lot of the time. So you're probably, just to get the base off on this, you're probably going to need to blow 2 chants on it.
Yeah.
You pick a friendly cities of Sigmar unit wholly within 12, and you add 1 to the roll if the chanter is a dwarf, which is solid.
Yeah.
Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target the unit until the start of your next turn. If the roll was a 10+, add 1 to the save rolls for the target until the start of your next turn.
This is one of the things that I think makes the dwarf faction of cities playable. Between all the penalties that you can impose on your opponent.
Yeah.
Now you have a 3+ save, which now goes to a 2+ save and a 5-up ward.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take that, I'm returning D3 models at the end of every turn.
Mm-hmm.
That can get crazy. That can be real resilient.
Yeah. I feel like the dwarves in this army are like your power anvils.
Yeah.
That's what they're really good at.
Yeah.
All right. Into the War Scrolls. Talia Vedra, 12 inches, flies. Actually, where does it say she flies? Oh, yeah, it's in keywords.
Yeah, it's a keyword now.
Yeah. 6-up ward, 4-up save, 15 health, 6 attacks, 3s, 4s, Ren 1, 2 damage. Pretty standard human hero profile.
I also believe she's 310 points.
Yeah. Hold on. I got that open on another tab.
Wait.
Where is said tab? There we go. 310. And then her mount, the Jaws, 3 attacks, 3s, 2s, Ren 2, 3 damage, and anti-monster +1 Ren. And then the Stinger, 2 attacks, 4s, 2s, Ren 3, D3 +3 damage. So that's just kind of a slot machine.
Yeah.
But, I mean, fun.
I mean, on average, like, you're hitting once.
Yeah.
And you can pump out some good damage with her. I don't think she's bad with a stat line.
Yep. Unparalleled Tactician, I think this is the thing that you really want to take her for. She can use 2 orders.
Yeah.
That's really
good. Which can mean that you're moving 4 units with your that means you can move 4 units with your movement phase ability, correct? Yeah.
And just to clarify, it's targeting an additional unit with the order, not doing a second order.
So then it'd be 3 or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Once per battle, you pick 3 friendly cities of Sigmar wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Each target can return a number of slain models to that unit with a combined health characteristic of up to 3.
I mean, yeah. It's a free rally.
Yeah. It's a free rally on 3 units.
Yeah. Which means you're getting a knight back. You're getting some guns back.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but it's not. This isn't the reason you take her. You're definitely taking her for the Unparalleled Tactician.
Yeah. And then once per turn, Paralyzing Venom. It's her Rampage. Roll a die on a 3+. The target strikes last. Just very good.
Not bad. Not bad. The amount of between having access to this and suppressing fire, which you can now do twice.
Yeah.
You can have 3 separate units have strike last with her.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Yep, that's very powerful. All right. Pontifex Zenestra, Lady Who Hates Wheels.
Yep.
She can unbind 1 spell a turn. She's a priest 2, so she can chant 2 a turn.
Which is
4 up ward, 9 health. Her attack profile is basically not there. Her chants, you can pick one of the following effects at the start of your next turn and pick 2 different effects if your chanting roll was 10+. So this chant's on a 5. All right. Add 2 inches to the move characteristic of humans within 12. Hollowed ground. Humans within 12 get a ward of 5 up. And cast out evil. Roll a d3 for each wizard and priest on the battlefield. On a 2+, inflict mortal damage equal to the roll.
That's fun.
Yeah.
This is, realistically, you're going to be praying twice, and the first one's going to be charging this prayer up.
Yeah.
Because it does go up on a 5. But the fact that if you're playing in a bubble and she just says, hi, all my humans now have a ward of 5 up, and if I do take dwarves, great. I'm just going to give them strike last and a 5 up ward as well.
Yeah.
You are now playing Nurgle, but you have a horde.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. But why make cities play like Nurgle when you can just play Nurgle?
Exactly. But also the add 2 to the movement, combined with the add 2 movement,
other add 2 and the add 3
order, you can get fast.
Yep. All right. Flagellants. 6-inch move, 6 up save, 1 health, no ward, and they got 2 attacks each on 4s and 4s, and you really are just throwing them into combat to die if they're
they are your screens.
Yep.
I mean, realistically, these guys will probably have a 5 up ward, because if you're taking them, then you're playing with, like, you're doing it for the aesthetic of Pontifex.
Yeah.
And they'll have a ward from that, or you know that they're not doing any damage. They're there to hold someone back or be a screen. And then you can just spend your order to give them a 5 up ward. Mm-hmm. So they will probably die to whatever touches them. Yeah. But there's a good chance that, like, one of them lives with that 5 up ward, and then you just pin a unit in place with one dumb guy.
Yeah, and for every guy that dies, you roll a die and do 1 mortal damage on 5 up.
Yeah, and you can.
And if Zenestra's wholly within 12, they add 1 to that, so it's on a 4 up. So I mean, pretty decent. Like, the main thing is their chaff that explodes and kills stuff on their way out.
Yeah. They do what chaff is good for.
Yep. All right, Free Guild Marshal on Griffin. One of my favorite things in this game ever.
This guy is wonderful.
Yeah, 12-inch fly, 15 health, 5 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1, 2 damage, charge +1 damage. Very good.
Yeah.
Then the Griffin, 6 attacks, 4s, 2s, rend 2, 3 damage. Also very good. Like, the combination of those two profiles is going to do a lot of damage.
11 attacks at 3 damage each is big.
Yeah.
For 280 points, I think this guy's a steal.
Yeah.
And that's not even getting into the real reasons why you're taking him, besides the immense combat potential.
Yep. When you have a reaction, and this is not once per game, it's just when you use redeploy wholly within 12 of him, if you roll a 1 through 3 on the redeploy, it just becomes a 4.
Which is amazing. Redeploy was one of the best commands that you can do in 3rd edition.
And it's better.
And the fact that you're always getting a 4+ is huge. The amount of games that have been turned because I redeployed just outside of an enemy's charge.
Yeah.
The amount of times when I lost a game because my redeploy was 1 inch when I needed it to be like a 3.
Yeah.
And the fact that redeploy is better in this edition because you do it at the end of your opponent's movement.
Yeah.
Means that this is huge. This means that at minimum, your opponent has a 41% chance to fail their charge.
Yeah. And also keep in mind too, that 4 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but like your normal moves in this army are like 4s and 5s. Infantry. So it's definitely going to be worth it.
And
then he has a rampage on a 4-up. You can pick up to 3 enemy units in combat with it. And roll a die for each one. On a 4-up, the target can't use commands this turn.
Which means you're not getting their all-out defense. They're not getting their all-out attack. Which basically says on a 4-up, you can theoretically increase your rend. Yeah. Against things like Nighthaunt, now you don't have a 5-up board.
They also can't power through.
Yeah, which is also really important. Good point.
Yep.
For 280 points, I think this guy's a steal.
Yeah, this guy's I want him in every list.
Yeah, and you can slap this guy with the with that artifact that means that he doesn't get wounded on unless it's on a 1, 2, or 3, and now monsters aren't really hurting him as badly.
Yeah,
and because he's a human, he'll probably have a 5-up board.
Yeah.
So even though it is a 4-up save, it's still tanky.
Yep. All right, Marshal and Relic Envoy. His Envoy is just a token now. He's got 3 different selections for weapons. I'm not sure any of them are particularly exciting.
I don't think any of them particularly matter.
Yeah, I mean, you use him for,
Yeah. I think you'd go with the dueling pistols. Yeah. Dueling pistol, just in case you need like 1 extra dead model for the strike last.
Yeah. So Rousing Order, he can add 3 to the control scores of other friendly Cities of Sigmar units wholly within 12 inches of him.
Not bad. Not great.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Anytime you manipulate control scores, I think it's going to be valuable.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this game already that manipulate control scores. So having him be there to say those 10 steel helms are now 14.
Yeah.
Especially with small objectives is good. But because of how small he is in that range, you're only really going to be manipulating 1 objective. The good thing is when you have 2 units on there and now you're buffing it by 6.
Yeah.
So that one matters. Like if there's steel helms and the Alchemite Warforger.
Yeah.
Now that's something that can start getting good.
Yeah, it makes all of your heroes count as 5.
Yeah, which is great.
All right, and then at the start of each battle round, you can send the envoy to a human unit wholly within 18 inches. And while the relic envoy is over there, it can be picked as the target of an officer's order ability, even if it's not within 12 inches of a friendly hero using that ability. So it just gives you unlimited range on an order,
which is really good if you have something like knights, which are naturally going to be moving ahead of the rest of this army if you don't have other mobile heroes.
Yeah.
So that's just going to say, hey, here's your additional attack when you charge it.
Yep. And it's start of the battle round, so it's before stuff starts moving.
Yeah.
Very important. Definitely like this guy. And what does he have for points here? Free Guild Marshal. He's 130 points. I think that's a really solid set of abilities for.
I think it's a little bit pricey for me, like maybe 10, 20 off, but
yeah.
But for what he can do, there's definitely lists that want to be that want this guy in there.
Yep. For sure. All right. Free Guild Cavalier Marshal. 5 attacks, 3s, 4s, 1 rend, 2 damage. And then a horse, 10-inch move, 7 health, 3-up save, which I think is going to be valuable.
Yeah.
So he's got a passive that adds 1 to charge rolls for this unit and all friendly Free Guild Cavaliers within 12 inches of him. That makes him real fast. When you add on everything else that you can get for movement buffs, those you can just add Alpha Strike with your knights.
Yeah,
very easy.
It's between getting a 19 on your charge dice. It's unlikely, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Personally, right. I don't value him that much. Yep. I think the +1 is great, and if you're going for like an all knights themed, you definitely want him to be like in that regiment.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the general and Griffin way too much, and I think the general and Griffin is eating up this guy's spot.
Yeah. Then he has a once per battle ability. If he charged another Cities of Sigmar human cavalry unit that charged this turn is wholly within 12, both of them get to strike first.
Yeah. And there's a surprising amount of strike first and strike last that you can find in this book.
Yeah.
And that's something that cities didn't really get to play with before. And it's going to be really interesting. So if you do take this guy and have a gunline supporting him, let's say you have 3 like points of offensive power.
Yep.
You can have 1 knight charge in. That's your first activation. You charge in, or that's what you select first as your regular pick. You can have a different unit charge in, and that unit's been suppressed by your gunners, and then your Cavalier and some more knights charge in, and then you have strike first over there. So your opponent's not going to get to attack until after you've done your first 4 activations.
Yep. All right. Free Guild Command Corps. Man, has this been dialed back.
Yeah. But you could still return 3 of these models.
Yes.
Which is, I feel, is a mistake. I feel they wrote that rule forgetting that this counts for that, because there's no way they just gave you an option to restore 9 wounds every turn.
Yeah. So, I mean, their attacks are only interesting because they're a unit with a whole bunch of crap. Once per battle round, you can use the adjutants. You pick a human unit within 12 inches. For the rest of the turn, the first time the target uses redeploy, rally, covering fire, or countercharge commands, you can pick another friendly Cities of Sigmar human wholly within 12 inches of this unit, and that has not used a command this phase to use the same command immediately After the first has been resolved, this is an exception to commands 1.2. You must still spend command points as normal to use the second command.
And that's where I think the trap is. I think because like let's say you're doing cover and fire, you're going to be hitting on 5s.
Yep.
And if you're hitting on 5s with 40 shots, even if it's with 80 shots, I don't know if that's worth the extra command point investment.
Yeah. I mean, where this is good is if you're in a shooting heavy list, say you're running 2 units of 20 Fusiliers, and you have that trait that lets you do all-out attack, and that also gives you +1 to wound.
So now you're giving all-out attack when covering fire.
Yeah.
So
it's going to spread it around more.
Yeah. And the fact that you can use counter charge twice is cool, but that's literally all of your command points for the battle round.
Yep. Marshal's retinue, they give a ward of 5 up to a free guild marshal and relic envoy. Okay.
I mean, that makes these guys surprisingly tanky.
Yep.
Because they're 5 wounds. There's 5. Is it 5 or 4? How many models are in this again?
6.
6. So it's an 18 wound unit, and if you take with a 5-up ward, and then you take the return D3 slain models at the end of every turn, you're healing 6 wounds. It's something.
Yeah, that is an interesting combination.
And then the fact that they're count as 2 models each on an objective, it's not nothing.
Yeah. All right, and then once per battle, you can make your opponent spend an additional command point, or the command is not used.
I think that's great.
Yeah, like once per game, I think is good for that, and it's going to stop like that counter charge when you really don't want it to happen, or
or there's going to stop the reroll to charge that your opponent missed because you redeployed 4 away.
Yep.
And it's going to say, I'm sorry, I've made you fail this tactic, or I made you fail the ability to block me from scoring this tactic.
Yeah. You know, what I just realized is with all of the different moving parts in this army, this is a galaxy brain army to play.
Oh, yeah.
This is this would be mentally exhausting to play this army.
There's definitely people who are attracted to this, because there's a lot of different ways that you can go out and build this. The problem is I don't think the points let you have as much fun with this as you'd like.
That's easy. You just play a 3,000 point game, whatever.
Yeah, I'd be fine.
Yeah. All right. Fusel Major on Ogre Warhulk. This probably got the biggest glow up out of anything in this book. So he's got a sniper rifle, crit auto wound, and anti-hero +1 rend. In your shooting phase, you can mark targets. You pick an enemy unit that was targeted by this unit's shooting attacks to be the target. Note, targeted, not wounded by.
Or even hit.
You just target with the Fusel.
And I can still spit fire in this edition, I assume. Right? So I can pick one. I can put one of my shots to a unit. Don't care if it hits or not, because everything else is going to be going towards the gunners or whatever, and then take 2 shots at a lone hero.
Yep. And you add 1 to hit rolls for shooting attacks made by Cities of Sigmar humans that target that unit for the rest of the turn. So basically Fusiliers.
Yeah.
Another reason that you don't need to spend a command point on all-out attack.
Yeah. You're buying this to basically give you a bunch of extra +1 to hits on your guns.
Yep. He's 180 points, which is not bad.
Yeah, because you're basically buying command points for the +1 to hit. If you're taking Fusiliers, if you're taking cannons, you want this guy. because you need that bonus, and your command points are needed elsewhere.
Yep. Okay. Battle mages, they're just a wizard. Wizard 1, and one of you get +1 to cast for one of the spells in your spell lore.
Yeah, which is great, because once again, a lot of your spells are 7s. So the fact that if you're taking several battle mages, now you take that little sub-faction bonus, now they're 5s. Or 6s if you're throwing a Kronspine, or you take out Jaws or whatever damaging or intrusive endless spells that you can mess around with. And these guys are suddenly some of the best value wizards in the game.
Yeah, they are, like, value is where they're really at, 110 points.
Yeah. I don't think there's any wizard in the game that gets a +2 to cast at 110 points. Mind you, I haven't read the Tzeentch rules yet, so I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Tzeentch is always possible.
Yeah.
Okay, Battle Mage on Griffin. Still a Wizard 1. He's got the same Griffin as the other guys got. Beast Staff, unimpressive stat line.
Yep.
Throws an Amber Spear, 3 shots, 4s, 3s, Rend 1d3 damage, anti-monster +1 Rend. Then Gurish Ferocity is his Rampage. You add 1 to the damage characteristic against monsters.
I mean, it's cool, but, like, you're taking this guy because you're doing a theme.
Yeah, and he's a 15 wound 4-up save wizard. So if you want to get your wizard up, like, in the mix, then...
I mean, even then, I'd still probably just take a Luminarch or a Huracanum.
Yeah.
But, I feel like...
He's 280 points, too. Yeah. He's kind of pricey for that.
I feel like this guy also needed a +1 to cast built in, or some other unique profile spell to really put him over the edge.
Or Wizard 2. Just having Wizard 2, I think, would do it, too.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know a world where I don't just take 2 regular wizards on foot and save points.
Yeah, you get 2.5 regular wizards for the cost of just this guy. So
yeah.
All right, Battle Mage on Celestial Hurricanum. It's 12 wounds, 4-up save. Wizard 1 on the Celestial Hurricanum. Once per turn, you pick D3 visible units and give them +1 to hit in combat. And then once per turn, you get the Storm of Shimtek. You pick an enemy unit within 12. You roll a number of D3 equal to the current battle round. For every 2-up, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll.
This is disgusting if you can keep it alive.
Yeah.
If you can keep this around to turn 3, turn 4, you are killing heroes left and right.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a lot of damage later in the game, but I don't know. I feel like this is another one to me that feels like a trap.
Yeah, I agree. You're able to give it the ward, you're able to heal it a bit, but the storm being only 12 inches means you're in your opponent's threat range, and you're not getting it turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, if you do, you're putting yourself in a bad position to get it off turn 1. And I don't think this is worth the 4 mortal wounds that you're going to get off before it dies.
Yep.
If you play more cagey and you get to survive to turn 3, turn 4, then you got juice. But until then, it's not worth it. The +1 aura that it gives is great. But it's actually, can you go back for a second? I just want to. It is only humans.
It's D3 and it's only humans.
Yeah, so it'd be great if this also buffed dwarves, but the book's racist. So
yeah, the book continues to be racist.
So
all right, Battle Mage on Celestial Hurricanum. Everybody wholly within 12 gets a 6-up ward. This one's not racist, though.
Yes.
This one
which is good.
racially agnostic.
Which hopefully they don't realize what they've done.
Yep. And then Searing Beam of Light, 24 inches, 1 attack, hits on a 2, then you see below each time this unit uses the attack. You pick a point on the battlefield within range, draw a line, and if the attack scores a hit, everything that the line goes across gets D3 mortal damage.
This is... I would take this just to be funny. Because
I mean, this is one of those things that's, it's 280 points. It's just way too much for how much damage it's usually not going to do.
The thing is if they made it, this probably should be pointed in like 200, but if they made it 200, people would take 5 of them.
Yeah.
And then you just be like, laser pointer, I kill your entire army.
Yep.
So it does have to be that expensive in order to not become the most unfun meme to play against.
Yeah.
But giving your elves access to a 6-up ward, not bad, because that's realistically what's going to benefit the most from it.
Yep. All right, Steel Helms. These are your human infantry. Once per turn, they can consecrate the land. You roll a die if they're contesting an objective you control, and it's not contested by enemy models. On a 3-up, the objective becomes consecrated, and while you have humans contesting the objective, they have a 5-up ward, and it goes away if your opponent gains control of that objective.
For 100 points, getting what realistically is a 10 wounds with a 4-up isn't that bad. It's pretty bargain, and they're a good screen. If you can put these guys on an objective and have your cannons behind it, that's probably the best value that you're gonna get out of them. Yep. But also just a 4-up, 5-up, not a bad tanky stat line.
Yeah, they're just gonna be pretty decent at sitting on your objectives and being a problem for your opponent. What do we got next? Fusiliers, 18-inch shot when they don't move, 12 inches when they do, 2 attacks when they don't move, 1 attack when they do, but they can shoot in combat with the single attack. Yeah. Let's see. Fusiliers fire. If it's
that's just tells you what mode you get.
Yeah, the stat line's above. Fortified position, it subtracts 1 from the Ren characteristic for things that target them, but it does not let you move that turn while they're in a fortified position. And then Black Powder Squire. So it's just a token that sits next to the unit each time you use the shoot ability. The Black Powder Squire can let you re-roll 1 hit, and then if the re-rolled hit is a 1, you remove the Black Powder Squire. That is dumb. Like, that should just be like re-roll 1s all the time or something like
that. It's what that means is they had a model for it and they had to come up with some rule for it. So that's what they gave us. The problem, like what's going to happen with your Fusiliers if you want them to be effective is turn 1, you're almost always going to be out of range. Now, I believe what you're able to do is you're able to use that 3-inch move with the order and then put them into fortified positions because the 3-inch move with the order isn't core.
Yeah.
So, and then with your +3 range, if you take that sub-faction, they're going to be able to get a decent amount of distance, but otherwise they might not. You just have to come to terms with they're probably not firing turn 1.
Yeah.
If you go first, you got to put these guys up real close, and that could be a problem. So if you can get into a 2-drop list, I'd say take 20 of them, maybe 40, but otherwise you're going to have to come to terms with you're spending an order to move them up 3 inches, put them in fortified position, and then shoot. Which isn't bad if you can do that and reliably keep them safe. Maybe because you're establishing a more forward position with knights, then they could put out that damage. But a lot of what we've seen is like a huge downgrade from what they used to be. Fortunately, they're relatively affordable for their stat line.
Yeah. Let's see, what were they?
They're 120 for 10.
I cannot not see. Oh, because I'm looking at heroes. That's why. Yeah, 120 for 10 is. Yeah, I mean it's not bad.
Getting 40 shots with them, and they're gonna be 3s.
Yeah, they're mainly like just weight of dice with these guys to get damage.
But that's what you need for suppression fire.
Yeah.
And so if you want to play with the full extent of your rules, you need Fusiliers or Dark Shards. I don't know if the Dwarf version has the potency to get that through, just because I think they're only one shot now, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah. All right. Celestial Hurricane, I'm without the Battle Mage. Same thing, except it's not a wizard. Then
not worth it.
Yeah, without definitely not worth it. Luminarch, same deal. Yeah. What is the Luminarch without the wizard on it, though? For points, it's still 250.
Yeah, that's
silly.
Once again, it's 250 because if it was 180, you'd see a lot of them and you'd just be sniping heroes left and right.
Yep.
Because I mean, even at 250, there could be a dude who's just like, I'm taking 3 of these, and I'm lining them all up, and I'm killing every hero I get in range. Which, for some people, that for against some lists that require their heroes, that's not the worst thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Up next, Cavaliers.
I love
these guys are like where the money is in this army, I think.
Oh yeah.
This is I think lists with lots of Cavaliers are probably what's gonna do well.
Yeah. The sample list I wrote takes 20 of them. I have 2 units of 10, and I think they're great. I think you need to take them in 10s.
Yeah. So they're Cavalier weapons, 3 attacks, 4s, rend 1 damage, and +1 damage on the charge. And when they charge, you roll a die for each model in combat, and on a 4-up, they inflict 1 mortal damage on the target.
That is huge, because when you have a block of 10, that's on average 5 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
That's delete the support hero.
Yep.
That is okay. When thinking about, because we no longer have double reinforced, the most amount of wounds you're ever going to see in a unit is 48, which is 12 ogres.
Yep.
Everything else is going to be less than that. Biggest is probably going to be around 40, which means you're doing over 10% of the damage that you need to eliminate the unit just on the charge.
Yeah.
And then you have a very good attack profile. I mean, it looks like 4s and 4s. It's not 4s and 4s.
Yeah, it's never 4s and 4s. And you can also get extra attacks. You can all-out attack it. You can do all kinds of other things to buff.
If you're charging with this unit, you're using the order to give them +1 to hit. Not +1 to hit, +1 attack. Yeah. So you're going in with 40 attacks. Even at 4s and 4s, that's 41 attacks, but that's still going to be 10 armor saves at rend -1, 2 damage.
Yep.
Which is probably around 10 damage.
Yeah.
If not more. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that you got to do with it. You're going to add in like 2 to 3 more wounds to stop the attacks from the hooves. If you all out attack them, then you're probably doing 20 damage total with them, which is enough to kill half of everything in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys are just going to charge in and delete something.
Yeah.
So very good. I think that's just where stuff's at. Yeah. The Great Cannon. I love this guy now.
I do too.
The cannonball's 24-inch range. You can only shoot it when you're in a fortified position. 2 attacks, 4s, 2s, Ren 2, D3 plus 2 damage. And you just pick between the Great Shot and the Cannonball. You get 5 shots, 3s, 3s, Ren 1, 2 damage if you are shooting Grape Shot. But that 24-inch range, man, that's what makes this thing happen.
When it's more than that, because you can add 3 to it, and you can add another 3 to it. So it can be as high as 30. Yeah. Which is where the magic starts to happen, because there's no running away from it. And the fact that you get the +1 to hit on this from the Fusio Major means that it's 3s and 2s, which is a world better than 4s and 2s when you only get 2 shots.
Yeah.
And then you count in suppressing fire. You count in the fact that these guys are only 10 more points than Fusiliers.
Yeah.
And they're kind of outputting almost the same damage.
I think they may output more damage.
Yeah, the Fusiliers, I think the Fusiliers, because of the way the dice, output like a little bit more on average, just because the 2 shots are a lot more skewy than 40 or than 20.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be more swingy, but I think it does more damage on average.
Yeah. It's either going to do 5 damage or nothing. But that's still something. And I think what you do is you take 2 of these and 20 Fusiliers with the Fusio Major.
Yep.
And that eats up around, that's 240 plus 260, and it's like 700 points, like a third of your army, but it provides a really nice shooting core.
Yep, absolutely. Really like this now, and that D3 plus 2 damage is a much more reliable cannonball than the old D6.
Yeah.
Just really good. Like, this is a great cannon. It is appropriately named now.
Yeah, it's great because you get them in your spearhead boxes.
Yep.
So you don't have to feel bad about buying multiple.
Yep. Wild Core Hunters. I mean, the big thing with these guys is that they make a normal move in the movement phase, in the deployment phase.
Yeah, these guys are not bad. Because they have the bigger shooting range than the Fusiliers do, and they basically, besides that, have the same stat line. You get to output a decent amount of shots with them.
Yeah. I think they're going to be a good unit that's going to harass and grab objectives early. They're weird. They're like, I feel like though that they have some versatility to them, but they're not good enough at any one particular thing for it to stand out really well.
Yeah, I mean, their passive is also really good, which is if they're not visible to enemy units more than 12 and away while it's affected by cover, and they add +1 to their hit rolls. Yeah. So that's just, if you still want shooting support, but you don't want to invest in your Fusilier Major and the weight of dice behind Fusiliers, I think Wild Core Hunters backed by a few cannons might not necessarily be bad.
Yeah.
But I feel that their mobility is a lot better, but at the end of the day, that like the 3 inches that they're missing off the range of the Fusiliers might come to hurt.
Yeah. And they're also just not doing nearly as many shots.
Because your 4 of them are dogs, right? Yeah.
4 of the 11 models are dogs. Okay. Steam Tank Commander. This is another one that is just like, he is party in a box.
This is the guy that you need that reroll 1 thing per phase for.
Yeah, he's 340 points. He's got an 18-inch cannon, a 12-inch steam gun, and then an 18-inch rifle. So he's got a whole bunch of shooting he can do.
Yeah.
It's only one shot off the cannonball, but as you said, if you give him the artifact that lets him
if you're taking this guy, you're taking that artifact for the rerolls that you get for your shooting, and because you have one of the best armor saves in the game.
Yep. 2-up save. Not a lot of things have that printed on them, especially when they got 12 wounds. This thing's very hard.
And especially when you have the most easy access to a 5-up ward that you're going to find.
Yep. Outside of Nurgle.
Outside of Nurgle, yes.
Yeah. Being able to give this guy a 5-up ward on top of all that is amazing. Let's see. Once per battle, you can add 1 to hit rolls for shooting attacks made by this and add 1 to hit roll. Pick up to 2 friendly steam tanks.
Yeah, you can pick himself. Right?
Can he? No, he can't.
No.
It's steam tank commander, not steam tank.
Yeah.
So he can't pick himself. You have to have more than 1 steam tank in here. So that's for a meme list.
Yeah, I mean, worst case, just take the Fusio Major. He'll give it.
Yep.
He'll give him a +1 to hit.
Yep. And you can use the more pressure to either run and shoot and or charge.
Yeah.
Or you can add 3 to the steam guns attacks, which is not bad because it does 2d6 already.
Yeah. So you'll be averaging 10 shots, hitting on 2s, wounding on 4s. So that's 4 armor saves your opponent has to make.
Yeah.
And then, but it's good when you have the steam canning hidden on 3s with a reroll, wounding on 2s with a reroll. That's where you need that reroll 1 thing per phase 4.
Yep. All right, and then just the regular steam tank is all that same stuff, except it's not a hero and doesn't have the hero abilities and all that jazz.
Yeah. If you have any interest in taking that, just take a cannon.
Yep.
The range that you the health is only going to matter if people are targeting you, and if people are targeting you, you're already in a bad position.
Yep. Let's see. Galen is 210 points. You double his damage characteristic of his weapons against wizards, priests, and manifestations. He can shoot in combat, 10-inch shot, 3s, rend 1 damage, and then his sword is 4 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1 2 damage, and anti-wizard +1 rend, which is funny because most wizards have bad armor already.
Yeah.
And when he is with Duralia, he gains strike first, and Duralia gets a 5-up ward.
Yeah. I mean, I know people liked him in 3rd edition.
Yeah.
He doesn't speak to me.
Yeah.
There's just so much, like the anti-wizard stuff is cool, but when are you going to, like, with the new lookout shirt stuff, like when are you going to be able to reliably hit them?
Yeah.
Unless you're hitting like a vampire lord.
Yep. Duralia though is interesting. She's got a 18-inch gun, 2 shots, 3s, rend 1 2 damage, anti-wizard +1 rend, but you double her damage characteristic against wizards, priests, and manifestations. I think the manifestations is the important one on that.
Absolutely.
It's just going to be like your manifestations can go away.
It really depends on how much manifestations really start to matter.
Yeah.
In this edition, but even then, I don't think they're going to matter to the point where this is worth the investment.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're playing a narrative campaign, this is going to be wonderful. If there's some cool stuff that comes out of manifestations, if Kronspine becomes the meta because people realize that they can just throw this at on their opponent's turn, then you might need this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see a world where this is
worth noting is that 210 points is for her and Galen. They come together as a pair.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more value to it.
Yeah, especially when you add 3 to both of their control scores.
Yeah. Yeah, it's silly stuff like that that's actually going to be the powerful thing.
Yeah. It's you can't look at anything individually because of how well this army plays with unfortunately their own race. As we start to move into the dwarves. Yeah. But I like the Warden King. This guy's fun.
Yep. So you pick a grudge against an enemy unit at the start of the game, and you add 1 to wound rolls for all of your dwarves against that unit for the entire game. That'll help take the big down pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, it's only combat attacks, but that's all you need. Yep. The hammers that we're going to come up to are going to output a lot of damage. And the fact that he can chain activate when he fights as his other ability means you're going to be getting some damage in.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those guys, though, that some of these heroes that have those chain fight abilities like this, like, just don't make sense. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to even get this guy in combat. Although, once you have the grudge done, like, you're paying the points for the grudge, and then it's just a guy sitting on the table.
Well, you're paying the points for the grudge and
issue orders.
And to issue orders, and because you need him or a Rune Lord, I believe, to have dwarves. Because remember, the army's racist. You need to have him in a regiment.
Yep.
So if you like, this isn't bad because a lot of the dwarves are quite decent in combat. But for me, I'd personally rather just be playing Fire Slayers at this point if I'm going to be dirtling around with a 4-inch move.
Yep.
But I think there is a space for him where he walks up with the hammers because I think they get the bodyguard rule.
Yep. And then then Rune Lord, he's your priest. Priest 1, he can unbind 1 spell a turn. His prayer is on a 5. You add 1 to the Ren characteristic of melee weapons for the targeted unit. That has to be a dwarf.
Yeah.
And then on a 10 plus, you add 1 to the Ren characteristic of that. Oh, wait. Pick another. So it's the 10 plus is do it to 2 units.
Yeah.
And this guy also just gives you access to prayers, which is very good.
I mean, you also have that the other ability that can make you can make him a priest too, or you can make your Warden King a priest. I think this guy is what turns dwarves up to be a viable melee option.
Yep.
Because you're going to have to look at every single melee dwarf profile as if it had an additional rend on it.
Yeah.
Because if you're taking this guy, you are off-turn praying to make sure you get to that 5, or you're giving him 2 prayers a turn to make sure you get to that 5.
Yep. All right. Longbeards. I thought Dwarden were made of sterner stuff. Add 2 to the control score. Friendly cities of Sigmar. Dwarden, excluding Longbeards, while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. And then they're just melee guys. 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, 1 rend, 1 damage.
I think it's funny how they kind of like boss around the heroes in order to increase their control score.
Yeah.
But I'm not too impressed with these guys. I think you take one of them just to be funky if you're playing dwarves. And also because they're damage 2.
Yep.
Like, they're not bad at 2 attacks each, 4s and 3s, rend potentially 2, damage 2.
No, they're damage 1. These are damage 1.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at them. That's why I don't like them. Okay.
Yep.
The hammers are what I like.
Yeah.
Hammers are great.
Hammerers, 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1, 2 damage. Can easily get that additional bonus rend. It can be targeted by other prayers to give them +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and yada, yada, yada.
You can get these guys easily. Well, not easily. There's a lot of stuff you got to do. But 3 attacks each, 3s and 2s, rend 2, damage 2.
Yeah.
On 40 attacks.
Yeah.
That's killing most everything in the game.
Yeah.
If these guys charge you when they are that buffed, I don't know what lives. Maybe Archaon?
Yeah. And your dwarf heroes within combat range of them also get a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
That's a nice little kicker, I guess.
Yeah, it's a huge kicker because these guys are now 3-up, 5-up. And if you're in this build, you can also restore 3 of them a turn. And you can
wait, I just realized that it's this unit and the hero.
Hammers are where it's at for dwarves.
These guys are real good then.
Yes. If you like dwarves, you're easily first 300 points of your list is 20 hammers or rune, then you take your rune lord, then you take your warden king, and that is the core of your dwarf build. It's like 500 points. That's what you need because there's no reason to run dwarves if you're not running this. And you're getting your prayers up. These guys are nutty.
Yep. Your iron breakers, they got 10-inch pistols that can shoot in combat, which is
it's only the champion.
Oh, it's only the champion.
Yeah.
Okay. So then that's kind of silly. They can form a shield wall. When they get the hold the line order, they get a 4-up ward instead of a 5-up ward.
Yeah.
So these guys are super duper tanky.
Yeah. The dwarves will hold.
Yep.
But like I look at this and I'm like, why don't I just take hammers?
Yeah, exactly. Like I would rather take the hammerers because you don't have to rely on a prayer to get the ward.
How many points are iron breakers? I don't have that pulled up right now.
Let me check it out. Iron breakers 130 for 10.
Okay, so they're a bit cheaper, so like they could fit in there. But they're also, because they're dwarves, they're -1 to be wounded if you give them that order as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So
they're a very anvil-y anvil.
Yeah. You can take 20 of these, and I don't know what cracks that.
Yeah.
And these guys slap them with your rune priest or whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Iron Drakes, oh, how the mighty have fallen. 15-inch range, 1 attack, 3s, rend 1, anti-infantry +1 rend. Then once per turn in your shooting phase, you get a Cinder Blast bomb. You pick a visible enemy within 6 inches to be the target. Roll a die. On a 3-up, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll.
No, it's cool that can be up to 6 mortals.
Yes.
But you're never getting that.
Yep. Yeah, that is not something you count on. There's no way to get these guys to get double shots or increase their damage.
No, you're at 1 shot each, 3s and 3s, even with -2 rend, you're doing like what, 3 damage with them? 2 damage?
Yeah. And these guys are 150 points for 10.
Yeah, no, just take hammers. Just take 5-up ward hammers.
Yeah. And Fusiliers are just better than this.
Yeah, but
less points.
Not only do they have they're less points, they are longer range, which is the big problem with shooting in this army, which fortunately there's ways to help overcome that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's ever a world where I take Iron Drakes.
Yep.
Unless I refuse to take anything besides dwarves, just to have access to suppression fire.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'd take them.
Yeah, definitely agree. Like you can combo up some stuff, like playing an all dwarf list. If you are ride or die dwarf player, you can do it, and you can probably get a decent number of wins out of it. You can have some fun with it. I just don't think it's ever going to be competitive.
No, unless they're like, sorry, these were supposed to be 2 shots each, like every other gun in this army.
Yeah.
Then it'd be something, but until then, no.
Yeah, it's like they missed an ability on there. Yeah. All right, Cogsmith. Let's see. Once per turn, you pick up to 3 visible gyrocopters or gyro bombers wholly within 18 inches. Roll a die on a 3-up, add 1 to hit rolls for the target's attacks until the start of your next turn. Yeah, very meh.
I mean, this is like if you're trying to get a suppressing fire out.
Yep.
Because the gyrocopter can output damage.
Yeah. So the gyrocopter, his guns, 12 inches, 5 attacks, 4s, 3s, rend 1, 3 damage. Let's see. If this unit used a move ability this phase, pick an enemy unit that does not have fly, and that unit passed across to be the target. Roll a d3 on a 2+. Deal mortal damage equal to the roll.
If this is the ability that you read and say, I love this, I'm taking this, play KO.
Yeah.
Because, like, just for the simple fact that there's entire armies that get deployed on the table and have fly.
Yeah.
I will never take this.
Yeah. Because this literally does nothing against Nighthawk.
Exactly. I mean, I haven't seen the Squig profiles yet, but Squigs used to all have fly. I don't know if they still will.
Eels and stuff have fly.
Yeah. There's a lot of Zinch options that people run around, maybe even build an all-flying list between Screamers and Zangors on disc and Lord of Change. And there's just too many times when this ability does nothing. And
yeah, in 160 for that, and then 180 for the Bomber.
Yeah.
Bomber, his clatter gun, 3 attacks, 4s, 3s, run 1d3 damage. And then he also does a drop bombs thing in your movement phase, does the roll a d3 2+ mortal wounds, then drop them all, make 2 rolls of d3 for each 2+ inflicted amount of mortal damage equal to the roll, then roll a d3 for each unit within the target's combat range that does not have fly on a 2-up inflicted amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. Once drop it all effect has been resolved, this unit cannot be this ability cannot be used again for the rest of the battle.
Yeah. Once again, it's just like these guys used to be 80 points.
Yeah.
And
180 is right for this.
Yeah. I'd gamble like if these were still 80 points, I'd probably take them in every list just to get that, like, be on the sides of the battlefield tactic. But like if I'm playing a dwarf list and I still want to get that because you do need mobility, I don't know if I dedicate 320 points in my army to being able to do that and then risk the fact that they're never going to be able to drop bombs in certain matchups.
Yep. All right, moving on to elves. Our sorceress, her sacrifice, it only gives you +1 to cast, but the slaying the models on a 4-up now, rather than just automatic. And she's got Word of Pain once per turn, roll a die on a 3-up, subtract 1 from hit rolls and wound rolls for the target attacks until the start of your next turn. So that's a really good debuff, but she has to be in combat with it. And she is made of paper.
And if she's in combat, there's a problem.
When that iron underwear she's got is not doing her a lot of good for protection.
No. And she is basically your only foot hero option.
Yeah.
For if you want to include elves. Otherwise, you have to take a dragon, or I think the Black Ark Corsair. Because everything else is the assassin. He doesn't bring a regiment with him.
Yeah.
He's just a drop, so I don't know why anyone takes him.
Yep. All right, sorceress on Black Dragon. All right, she has complicated stuff.
Yeah.
The dragon, his power is not bad. 6 attacks, 4s, 2s, run 2 damage. And then he breathes fire. All right. In your hero phase, you command the underlings, pick up to 3 friendly elf infantry, wholly within 12. Add 3 inches to the move characteristic for each target for the rest of the turn.
That's pretty good.
That makes your elves real fast.
That makes your elves amazingly fast because you also have the order to make a move an additional 3 inches. And then you can, once per turn, beginning of the first battle round, move an additional few inches. And now suddenly, those are the that might be the fastest infantry in the game.
Yeah. The downside here is that this model is 300 points.
Yeah, and that's why you're never taking it.
Yep. And then we have Feed on Life. Roll a d3 on a 2+, inflict an amount of mortal damage on the target equal to the roll of any models are slain by the ability. Place a dark sorcery token next to this unit for the rest of the battle to a maximum of 3. And then dark sorcery, add 1 to casting rolls for this unit for each dark sorcery token it has.
It's a 14 wounds on a 4-up.
Yeah.
You're not getting to the end of the turn if you're in combat.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not something you want in combat, so that's rough.
If you're chasing after the +1 to cast, you just take a battle mage. Unless you're going for the theme and the aesthetic, the command underlings is nice, but it's not worth 300 points when for the mobility of that, when you can have 280 be spent on the Griffin guy who makes your redeploys 4 inches.
Yeah, and I think the 300 is because she's one of the few things in this game that can theoretically get up to a +3 to cast. Like nothing else does that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're never getting there. It's a nice dream.
Yeah,
and technically it'd be +4 because you could be in the sub faction.
Oh yeah, that's true. All right, Dread Spears. Coven Guard, if this unit didn't charge, add 1 to wound rolls. They're just 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, no rend, 1 damage, anti-charge, +1 rend.
I mean, they're okay.
I mean, there's just other stuff in this army that's better for... I mean, it's 110 points, so they're cheap, but you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah, if you like elves, this is what you take, the Blackguard.
Yeah. If you like elves, you take Blackguard.
Or Executioners, which we'll get to.
Probably some of both, right? So these guys are 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1 damage. Steel and sorcery, while they are...
they have the Hammer's rule with the ward.
Yeah, they have the same rule as the Hammerers, getting 5-up ward with a hero.
Which is pretty good.
But it has to be an infantry hero.
Which means
it has to be a sorceress or an assassin or the elite master.
Yeah, the assassin's not bad. The problem is it's the assassin, which means you're going an extra drop.
Yeah. All right, War Hydra.
I think they finally made this guy fun.
Yeah. I'm curious what his points are before I do that. 220. Okay. Maybe we can talk at 220.
Yeah.
He's not doing a whole lot of damage. He heals 6 every turn.
Yeah.
That makes it interesting. And 6-headed strike. Pick an enemy unit in combat with him. Make 6 rolls of D3. For each roll that exceeds the target's health characteristic, inflict 1 mortal damage on the target.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think they finally got the healing to be fun.
Yeah.
Where if you don't kill him outright, then
they're healing most of the way back.
Yeah. Can you give him the 5-up ward? I forget.
I'm not sure if they can get it.
Yeah. But having there, it's entertaining to say the least. If you want a pet unit, I think it's more viable than it's ever been. Is it great? I don't think so.
Yeah. Bleak Swords, 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, no rend, 1 damage, crit 2 hits, and you add 1 to the attack's characteristic of this unit's melee weapons while it's contesting an objective you do not control. This is supposed to be an objective clearing unit by what that rule says.
I actually don't think this is that bad. Okay, because hear me out, right?
All right.
If we just said how many different ways this unit can get a movement buff.
Yep.
Right? So you can give them the 3 inches. You're going to give it an extra 3 inches from your Sorceress on Dragon if you're going with the elf theme. You're not going to do the order because you're going to do the combat order on the charge, which gives him an additional attack.
Yep.
So now you're going in there with 80 attacks at 2s and 4s with crits 2 hits.
Yep.
Which means on average, what's that? 80 hits?
Yeah, that's a lot.
This is surprisingly, and you can give him a 3d6 charge.
Yeah.
Like, this unit can actually do work.
Yeah, it's interesting.
How many points are that?
Virtually nothing, I would guess.
Yeah.
Bleak swords, they are 100 points for 10.
Yeah, you take a block of 20, give them 4 attacks each, and they will hit like 80 times.
Yeah.
Because when you give them the extra attack, if they're elf, they get +1 hit too, right? That's the elf bonus. Yeah, so that's 40 armor saves at round 1.
Yeah. All right, executioner.
Or not round 1. That's 40 armor saves.
Yeah. So 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, round 1 damage, crit mortal. And if this unit charged, it does crits on 5s.
Yeah. This is good.
Yeah. They're 140 for 10, which is not bad. Like, that's pretty good value for the amount of damage they can put out.
Yeah, with 280, that means that you're getting, and because you're also going to assume you're giving them +1 attack, that means you're getting 60 attacks, which means 20 mortal wounds.
Yep. Yeah.
Actually, I'm starting to like elves a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
The bleak swords being that cheap and forcing that much damage with their crits doing 2 hits. Yeah. And executioners, like, actually, there might be gas here.
Yeah, so it'd be doing 40 attacks, and a third of them do mortals. So that's
no, because you're an elf that charged. You're getting +1 hit and +1 attack.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, interesting. I'm beginning to get the impression that the stealth awesome thing
is dark
in this edition.
Yeah,
in this edition in general is like multi-attack infantry that you take in large numbers.
Yeah.
Like swarms of infantry might actually be really good just because they'll be able to throw a crazy number of attacks.
Yeah. And you don't have to worry about their the weapon ranges anymore. Like those bleak swords used to only be a 1-inch range, so you maybe get 10 of them in.
Yeah.
But now you're getting the full 80 attacks.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 80 hits.
Yeah.
That's scary for 200 points.
Yep.
I mean, mind you have to have that's why you have your sorceress on dragon over there to give you that command.
Yep.
But for 200 points, that's a great suicide bomb.
Yep.
Oh man, did I just talk myself into buying a Dark Elf army?
You don't need another army.
I only have 14.
Need another army.
I only have 14.
All right. Okay. Dark shards, 15-inch shots, 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, no rend, 1 damage, anti-infantry +1 rend, and their ability in your shooting phase. If this unit has not moved, you add 1 to the attack's characteristic of its missile weapon.
I like these guys.
Yeah, they're putting out a quantity of shots.
The problem is that they're a little bit more expensive than Fusiliers.
Yeah.
They only get the rend if they're against infantry, which is usually fine because that's probably what you're going up against. Because infantry is probably the best anti-thing to have.
Yeah.
And you're automatically hitting better, which means if you get a nice to hit bonus, or you just do all-out attack, you're doing it on 2s. or this gives you a good option for, like, this might be what you want to use to get your Overwatch shots with, because they'll be hitting on 4s with 3 attacks each.
Yep.
So with
you don't get 3 attacks. It's only in your shooting phase.
Oh, okay. So so with with 40 attacks hitting on 4s, you'd be getting something.
Yeah.
So the Dark Surge I don't think are bad. It's just
they're 140 for 10 of them though.
Yeah. But when the rest of the army is 200-point suicide bombs of of Dark Swords of like Sword Elves, I think you actually might be able to afford that.
Yeah. All right, Drake Spawn Chariot doesn't have terribly interesting attacks.
No.
Charge +1 damage, but it's only 2 attacks. Scythe Runners. If this unit charge, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch, roll a d3 on a 2-up, inflict mortal damage equal to the roll. And this is 120 points. I'm going to give this a hard no.
If I can give a harder no, I would. I don't see a reason to take it unless, you're looking specifically at quick units that could contest side objectives, like just to have bodies on the board to try and get battle tactics.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Dreadlord on Black Dragon. He's got the same dragon, but with a melee hero profile for his weapons. And he's got a repeater crossbow, which is not super exciting for range attacks. Under the shadow of the Black Wings, add 1 to charge rolls for Elf Cavalry within 12 inches. Note he is not cavalry.
No, and Elf Cavalry are only okay. So,
yep. And Chariot's a war machine.
It's a war machine. I mean, the reason why you want the repeater crossbows and the Noxious Dragon Breath is so when you get to your Elf Cavalry, they get extra mount attacks if something is damaged. So you're not trying to kill anything; you're trying to do 1 damage to get the extra, proc the extra attacks.
Yep. Then indiscriminate slaughter. Pick all units, friend or foe, that this unit is in combat range with, excluding this unit to be targets. Roll a d3, 2-up, do mortal damage equal to the roll.
It's a fun suicide gambit.
Yeah. Just like he's like a little bomb.
Yeah, there's definitely armies that you're going to find that are going to be playing like a little pocket Death Stars where there's like 1 or 2 heroes being protected by a unit. So being able to go in there and just doing, a bunch of mortal wounds, 3-4 separate units, not bad. And then if he lives to your next turn, do it again.
Yep. Dark Riders, 12-inch move, which I think is the important thing on these guys. Yep. Like, why take a chariot when you can take this for an extra 2 inches and more control?
Yeah.
They got repeater crossbows, 2 shots, 4s and 4s, crit 2 hits. And then they can sow havoc when you pick an enemy unit that it's in combat with, roll a die on a 3-up, it inflicts 3 mortal damage on the target, and this unit can immediately use a retreat ability as if it were your movement phase without any mortal damage being inflicted on it.
These are surprisingly fun.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are going to be able to run in, do a few damage on the enemy, and then get out.
Yeah, I mean, they'll do a little bit, and then proc a low d3 more damage, and it's nice because this is one of the things that you don't need to use power through for.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to be able to move over them like you had fly, but you're still going to be able to get some really good positioning.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Getting near the end, Drake Spawn Knights on their lances, 2 attacks each, 3s, 4s, Ren 1 damage, +1 damage on the charge. Bestial Instincts. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the attack characteristic of its Ferocious Jaws while it's in combat with any damaged enemy units, or while it's in combat with enemy units that have any models that have been slain.
Yeah, so this is why you want your little dumb 2 crossbow shots. So when these guys
Yeah.
get in, they get an extra 5 attacks.
Yep.
They're not bad. I mean, all their attacks are it's 5, 6 attacks, maybe 7 each, and with a 3-up save and 3 health, not bad.
Yeah.
And
These guys
they'll have
are
plus 1 to charge.
Yeah. Okay. The Assassin. 6 attacks, 3s, 4s, Ren 1, 2 damage, anti-hero +1 Ren, and crit mortal.
I would love this guy if he let you take a regiment.
Yeah.
Or just like, yeah.
Yep. While this unit is in combat range of friendly infantry with 5 or more models, this unit is not in combat. This unit is not visible to enemy units. And then in for the kill, this unit has strike first if it charged this turn.
This is great with your Blackguard and with your this is great with your Blackguard.
Yeah.
The problem is it hurts your army construction.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish that this doesn't feel very assassin-y.
No, I mean,
I want this guy to be able to run in and just shank a 5-wound foot hero.
He can absolutely shank a 5-wound foot hero. I mean, he's 6 attacks, 3s and 4s, so you're getting 4 damage in, maybe. Yeah, it looks like the hero will live with like 1 wound on average, probably.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he does have strike first if he charges in.
Yeah.
Which means that the rest of the unit will just kill that because you're always running him with something.
Yeah. It would be great if he had like a once per game double fight or something like that.
Or like a grenade to like D3 mortal wounds to everyone nearby.
Yeah.
Or if you didn't, or if you can keep him hidden in a unit like you used to be able to.
Yep. All right, Black Ark Fleet Master. Boring profile. At them new curves, pick a friendly Black Ark Corsairs. This is just a chain fight ability. Nothing too exciting. 5 wounds, 4-up save.
Yeah.
He does what Black Ark Fleet Masters do.
How many points is he?
Probably too many.
Yeah.
Black Ark Fleet Master, 110. Exactly. That is 30 points too many. Then your Black Ark Corsairs, their repeater handbows, 10 inches, 2 attacks, 4s, no rend, 1 damage, and can shoot in combat. And then 2 attacks, 3s, 4s, no rend, 1 damage on their blades. And they have a passive ability. Each time you make an unmodified save roll of a 6 for a combat attack, it inflicts 1 mortal damage back on the attacker.
That'd be great if these guys were tankier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just all with the I still can't get over making 80 hits on on average.
Yeah.
On the Dread Blades for 200 points. That's going to make everything else seem ineffective.
Yeah. All right. Scourge Runner Chariot, 16-inch harpoon shot, 2 attacks, 3s, Rend 1, D3 damage, anti-monster +1 Rend. Then fairly boring melee profile, and then lay low the beast, add 1/2 hit rolls and wound rolls for this unit's shooting attacks if it targets a monster.
I feel like these chariots would be a lot more interesting if their control score wasn't a 2.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like it's upsetting. Like these things definitely need some charge bonuses on them. They're chariots.
Yeah.
And like just some like even like a little bit of moves into combat take D3 mortal wounds, just something to make them more
something
palatable.
Anything. Yeah, and they're like 130, 140 points. Like, no thanks.
I take them at 70. I take them on sale.
Yeah.
No.
All right, and then Charybdis, 6 attacks, force 2s, Ren 1d3 damage, and then the Goads and Whips, 2 attacks, 3s, force, no Ren 1 damage. Once per turn, at the end of any turn, roll a die on 3+, subtract 5 from the target's control score for the rest of the turn.
That's cool, but how is this going to be in combat and live?
Yeah.
That's just where my question comes to.
Yeah, it's going to be in combat with a unit that's contesting an objective.
There's a lot of cool things that modify control scores. This is not one of them.
Yep. And only on a 3-up makes it not super reliable.
It might be... It might have one of the better modifications of just a flat -5.
Yeah.
But even if it was a flat -5 without the roll, I don't see, like, you would have to engage a unit of 10 steel helms or something similar and then, like, not really kill anything.
Yeah. All right, Alchemite Warforger. He is a Wizard 1, and then he's got his Runic Crucible. You pick a Cities of Sigmar human, wholly within 12. Roll a die on a 3-up, add 1 to save rolls for that unit until the start of your next turn.
I just want to say I feel bad for this guy because they clearly forgot about him.
Like, why is another human way at the end?
Yeah. But otherwise, for 110 points as a wizard, so you're giving up the +1 to cast that your battle mage have, but for a 3-up +1 to save, I think if you're not investing in heavy cost spells, you go the Alchemite Reforger.
Yeah.
Unless you're not going with humans.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy, I think he's not going to see a lot of play, I don't think.
I mean, you can, because we talked about, like, how tanky the humans can get, and by making knights 3-up, 2-up, 5-up, 3 wounds, 2-up save, 5-up ward.
Yeah.
That's something. And if you need the wizards, I'd probably go this over the battle mage because I'm taking this for that ability. Callous and Toll.
Yep. Callous and Toll. Oh. They got Flicklock pistols with anti-wizard +1 rend. They still are not going to do much to them.
Yeah.
Their Azurite blades, also anti-wizard +1 rend.
That might do more, though. It's not terrible when you're damaged too, but it's also, you also double the damage characteristic if you're targeting.
Yeah.
So
wizards, priest, and manifestations get double damage.
Not
Violate to
bad.
the last. This unit has 2 models and would automatically be destroyed. It's not automatically destroyed. Instead, 1 model is slain. Then pick a Friendly Tolls Companions that hasn't used the fight ability. It's just a chain fight with the guys that they come with. And then the guys that they come with, Tolls Champions. They each get 4 attacks, 3s, 4s, rend 1/1 damage, anti-wizard +1 rend. They are hidden agents. They can, in the deployment phase, you pick a friendly Callous and Toll in the same regiment as this unit if those units have not been deployed, and they set up in reserve in the shadows. Then you emerge from the shadows in your movement phase, and you set this unit up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. Then Callous and Toll gets
within
set up
6,
along with them within 6. Then Saviors of Cinderfall. While Callous and Toll is wholly within combat range, this unit and Callous and Toll have a 5-up ward.
I don't like it's Callous and Toll is great. I don't know why you wouldn't take them over the other witch hunters that we saw earlier.
Yeah,
because I think these guys are just better.
Yeah. Yep. And what is the price of these guys? Oh wait, this is all in units, right? No. Callous. Hold on. I am like brain farting. Here we go.
Yep.
230 for all of that.
I mean, not terrible, but once again, like there's just some armies where you're not going to get your anti-wizard bonus.
Yeah.
And without the anti-wizard, anti-manifestation bonus, these guys aren't worth anything.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a lot. This is a lot of War Scrolls.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think a lot of these War Scrolls are not that exciting, and they're kind of very much skewed towards the humans being the best thing, and then
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling the elves now.
Yeah,
I think elves and dwarves do have places. I think you have to I think if you want a solid block of elves or dwarves, it's going to eat up half your army, and that's going to eat up most of the cool things that you're going to be able to do with humans. Because you're going to need if you want to do that awesome like suicide bomb 200-point dread swords that just does 80 attacks for no reason.
Yeah.
Then that's great, but you're gonna need a hero to keep up with them.
Yeah.
The only one that's doing that is actually Callus and Toll might be able to.
Yeah.
But the only one that's gonna really be able to do that is Lord on Dragon.
Yeah.
And that's gonna eat away another 80 points. Or maybe you just bunker them in and surprise your opponent by saying, hey, here's 80 attacks, they all hit, make 40 armor saves.
Yeah. That's it's interesting. I like that cannons are actually good.
Yeah.
Like having artillery be a viable option now is a good thing, I think.
Yeah. And the fact that shooting is completely different in that once you engage someone, they're not really able to shoot. You have to use the bad profile with the Fusiliers. So you're going to have a lot of challenges to really protecting your gun line, which is going to make a lot more interesting tactical play. I still really like the Cavaliers. I like how it's just like 340 points, but it's 5 mortal wounds on the charge. And that's, if I'm playing cities v cities, that's killing that that's doing a lot of damage to the Warding King. That's killing 5 hammers and like reducing a lot of the damage output that they have. There's a lot of interesting ways to build this list, and I love soup in that mixing and matching of the abilities, and like how each unit is able to support each other unit. And I feel that the cool stuff you're able to do with cities is still there. It's just you gotta dig for it. You gotta really finagle your points and your drops. Like I wrote a fun 2-drop list, but like there's very easy ways to counterplay that. Yeah. I think the more exciting thing is trying to go mixed arms, maybe with elves, maybe with some big wizards backing it up by being able to throw out Kronspine because you cast it on a 6. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of exciting things, and I don't think this is going to be a bad army. I think it will still be in like a B plus range. But that remains to be seen.
I think some challenges I think they're really going to have is this army wants a lot of heroes to get all of your buffs going. However, the more heroes you have, the more drops you are now.
Yeah, and the best heroes are very expensive. So,
a lot of your heroes are dudes on foot that are pretty fragile.
And not only are they pretty fragile, they're pretty slow.
Yeah, and they also want to get into combat for some of their buffs to work.
Yeah,
or at least be really close to combat to get their buff in range of the unit they're targeting.
Yeah. You're gonna need to that's why I like the Griffin with the Knights, because the Griffin's not gonna necessarily be that bad of a thing to get up close to combat, or at least we'll have the mobility to stay close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the space that the horse hero lives in for the humans, because he's not that important to your army, so he's better to sacrifice. And it comes down to there's so many interesting things. Having access to priests and wizards, and they're both decent. Having access to a 3d6 charge when you need it is huge, especially when you have units that have good bonuses to charge, with being +1 damage and +1 attack and +1 to hit on the charge if you're an elf.
Yep.
Like that's nothing to laugh at. So I want to see someone walk up with some dread swords now, or dread blades, whatever the 200-point dumb unit that just auto hits. Because that's going to be something that someone's going to abuse, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that has been 2 hours of crazy Cities of Sigmar stuff. Thanks to everyone for watching along with us. It's an interesting army. I think it's going to be a challenging one to play well.
Yeah. There's a lot of auras you got to maintain. You have to be within 12 of your hero. Otherwise, you're not doing what makes your army work.
Yeah.
Especially with dwarves, because you want your wards in your dwarves, and you want your penalties to be wounded. You want your +1 to hit and your extra attacks on charging elves. There's a lot that you got to be worried about.
Yeah.
I think maybe you play it as a castle. Mm-hmm. And if you have have mix of elves and dwarves, I think that could also be viable. But then again, you're going so deep into your drops because this book is racist.
Yep. And you also are going to end up with more drops because all of your regiments are also racist.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. At the end of the day, though, maybe that's fine, because that way you get extra turns to build up your prayers. You can get a few cheap shots off with your cannons before your opponent gets to go. And you have enough movement shenanigans that you might be able to capture that, like, one of the two not crazy to do tactics of taking the center or the flanks, because you have the mobility available. Yeah. So it might not be the worst thing if you go first.
Yeah, but this is going to be a brain bender to play. You have so many different things to remember, and so many different interactions and different bubbles, and it's going to be a headache. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a little bit more mental work than I really want to do playing this game.
Yeah,
I'm just so much more casual about this game than I ever have been, and I'm just like, I don't want to think hard. I just want to do silly things and roll dice.
Absolutely. And the fun thing is this book still lets you do silly things. Just take 4 Luminarchs and just start drawing lines. Be like, D3 mortal wounds over here, D3 mortal wounds over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we are going to call it there. It's been fun. Thanks for being on with me, Dan. You are going to be on with me again on Friday to do Slaves to Darkness.
Absolutely.
As we continue on, and if you are watching live or sometime today, before then, this evening at 8, I'm going to be doing Maggotkin of Nurgle, which is going to be a good one.
I'll turn in for that.
Oh, yes. All right. Thanks, everybody. I will see you all later.